kids. We all grew up learning how to read from popular children's books. I mean, even before I was able to read, my parents would soothe me to sleep with the wise words of Robert Munsch. I'm pretty sure the book where the kid flushes a watch down the toilet was the spawn of my anxiety. Even at a young age, I felt like that was just a bad idea all around. That being said, some of our childhood favorites may have a deeper, darker meaning than we think. Welcome back to Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm Taylor McWaters, and this is our Top 5 children's stories with dark origins. Kicking off the list at number 5, Charlotte's Web. Said by E.B. White himself, "I wrote this for children and to amuse myself. This is a story of a barn." I mean, he's right. The story we all grew up to know about Charlotte's Web involved a spider, a pig, a message, and a happy-ish ending. But the original story of Charlotte's Web may give you chills. E.B. White raised pigs for slaughter growing up. He always felt conflicted when it came time to kill the animals, so one pig in particular got sick, so E.B. decided to try and nurse it back to health, and he even stayed up with it all night to comfort the pig. Alarming, but kinda cute. The pig sadly did not end up surviving. Mortified by the loss of his new friend, E.B. decided to write an essay titled "The Death of a Pig," based on his time with the animal. Shortly after, E.B. noticed a spider making an egg sac in his barn. Days later, E.B. noticed that spider didn't return to its sac. So, worried about the offspring, E.B. then took the egg sac with him to New York City in an old candy box. That's disgusting. Oh, with breathing holes, of course. Days after E.B.'s arrival to New York City, the spiders hatched and crawled out of the holes in the candy box. So if that doesn't make you feel sick enough, E.B. wrote in a letter that the spiders strung tiny lines from my comb to my brush, from my brush to my mirror, and from my mirror to my nail clippers. That's the grossest thing I've ever heard. If I went over to this guy's apartment and saw tiny webs all over his toothbrush and nail clippers, I would faint. I'd be out of there. What a nightmare. I would just walk in with a hairdryer and just fire away. And if that's not gross enough, he said the spiders were so small you couldn't even see them. Nothing more comforting than hanging out with invisible spiders, guys. Hey, we're gonna do a pre-drink at EB's. We're gonna have White Claws and tiny spiders. It's gonna be sick. Roll through. The illustrator for the book wanted to give Charlotte the spider a human face that resembled the Mona Lisa. That would have been hilarious. They go to kill the spider and she's just staring back at them like... Charlotte's Web received a huge amount of praise and even landed a movie deal. What you might not know is that Charlotte's Web got a huge amount of backlash because of the fact that Charlotte dies. Spoilers. What do you think? Did the story go too far or not far enough? Let us know. Number 4, Hansel and Gretel. Growing up, I loved trick-or-treating, interacting with strangers in exchange for free candy. Hell yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Well, the popular tale from 1812 written by the Brothers Grimm featured 2 children in medieval Germany. The children had been abandoned by their parents. Lost and starving in the woods, they find a house made of gingerbread. Yummy. The original title of the book was called Roland and Maybird, which doesn't sound nearly as cool, in my opinion. My apologies to anybody named Roland. Set during the Great Famine in 1314, a father decides it's best to just abandon his kids due to the small amount of food he was able to gather. The kids end up finding their way back home with breadcrumbs, so what does he do? He just abandons them all over again. Hey, you know what they say, if at first you don't succeed, abandon your kids twice? I don't know. The lost starving kids come across a huge house made purely of gingerbread. So exhausted, the children begin to eat the house without realizing it's a trap set by a witch. That's a lot of gingerbread. I mean, I feel like once I ate the mailbox, I'd tap out. If I had a glass of milk, maybe the doorknob as well. Maybe. So once the children are captured, the witch then makes Gretel force feed her brother Hansel until he's nice and fat. And then, once all of the food is consumed, the witch would then eat Hansel. Kind of like a stuffed turkey, except disgusting. Now, during this famine, it is said that food was so hard to find that dead bodies were actually dug up out of their graves, so the remaining pieces of flesh stuck in their eye sockets and everything can be consumed by starving villagers. Could you imagine? Wow, Tom, this beef jerky is great. Where'd you get it? He's just staring at you like, you don't want to know. Many versions of this dark tale have been rewritten for kids with the famine plot excluded. There have been many versions of the story, and even a movie starring Jeremy Renner and Gemma Arterton. The movie is a violent comedic take on the classics, so if you're feeling a gore-filled witch hunting film, be sure to check it out. Number 3, The Little Mermaid. Yeah, we all wish we had a crab sidekick that sang and gave you life advice, but what about being tortured by oysters 24/7? Well, the original story for The Little Mermaid, written by Hans Christian Andersen in 1837, included much more graphic details of the #sea life. This version still involved her mermaid sisters, but this time they were drowning sailors just for the fun of it, while they were singing to them. That's not cool, guys. I mean, get Monopoly, do something, play Rock Band. Stop drowning sailors, come on. And just when Ariel thought she was safe on land, every step she takes results in excruciating pains in her feet. And that just plain old sucks. Like, you know how sometimes when you're sitting on the toilet too long, maybe you're looking at memes, watching most amazing top 10 videos, something cool, and then your feet go numb for a few minutes and you can't walk? Well, Imagine feeling that all the time. No thank you. Somebody get this girl some sea Uggs. Oh, and she doesn't end up getting married to the prince. He ends up choosing somebody else. And her punishment? Dancing at the wedding. How awkward is that? Congrats guys, super happy for you. I'll just be over here drinking wine and crying all night. Cheers. Number 2, Peter Pan. Myself and many others grew up watching Peter Pan and the Lost Boys having invisible fun food fights. The 1991 Spielberg classic titled Hook introduced most of us to the late Robin Williams. It was fun for the whole family. The amount of times I watched Hook growing up. My first word should have been bangarang, but instead it was something lame like spoon, I don't know. Before any of the fun adaptations, it actually began as a play. The play first opened in 1904 at the Duke of York's Theatre in London. It did so well that the novel arrived just 7 years later in 1911. The story about Peter Pan was much darker than we know now. The Devil Wears Prada or tights. Well, written in 1860 by James Matthew Barrie, Peter Pan was originally based off the motives of the devil himself, known to trick the minds of young children to leave their homes and never return again. Once Peter Pan tricked Wendy into joining the Lost Boys and falling in love with him, he then informed her she's more of a friend. Well, a mother figure, rather. Listen, I've been friend zoned before, but mom zoned? That's just wrong on many levels. And finally, number 1, Little Red Riding Hood. We've heard many variations of the classic tale. One version in particular I'm quite fond of. Roald Dahl's take on the classic involves most of the same plot, except when Little Red is asking the wolf questions about his appearance, the fur coat gives it all away and Little Red proceeds to pull out a pistol and shoots the wolf. Bam! Surprise, mother. She's even seen later on rocking a fancy new fur coat. Even if it's warm out, Little Red will still find a way to flex that new fit. And its original version from the 10th century, however, has a much more sinister ending. Instead of the big bad wolf pretending to be the grandmother, it's actually an ogre, and not the fun Shrek type of ogre either. This ogre tricks Little Red into consuming her grandmother whole, similar to that crazy witch in Hansel and Gretel. I mean, this dude presents a full-on buffet made out of her organs and body parts, everything. I'm talking teeth for rice, skin for steak, and blood as wine. And once all that's consumed, the ogre then eats Little Red herself. I feel like if I was eating teeth, I would know I was eating teeth. I've never had Uncle Ben's minute rice and thought, wait a minute, this feels awfully similar to my molars. Oh, yep, it's teeth. I knew it. It's teeth, guys. No one eat that rice. We're good. Oh, and blood instead of wine? Yuck. I mean, make a sangria or something out of Gam Gam. Something refreshing at least. Well, there you have it, guys. Which children's book did you grow up loving? Let us know in the comments down below so we can gladly ruin those for you as well. And as always, thank you for watching. I'm Taylor McWaters. We'll see you next time.
Oh fuck, I slipped it up. Shit, this is gonna be real small.
Based on his time with the animal. Ah, damn. The movie's a violent comedic taste on the classic, so if you're looking, try it again.